Yeah, I mean, it's not didn't go the way we wanted it to go. Players played hard. Now they're going to have to strengthen the resolve.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Dennis Fithian with this afternoon live. Welcome in TMBR, the Maize and Blue Review, as we get ready to get things underway here on this YouTube Live on this November the 1st. And I do want to thank Brad Galley over there at Channel 7. That was Jim Harbaugh after the game on Saturday up in East Lansing, talking about strengthening their resolve moving forward. We'll get to that. We'll look back at the game and why Michigan ended up losing to Michigan State up there in East Lansing when things were looking so good at different times for the Wolverines. Also, a couple features here that I hope to get to daily. One is the Michigan Recruiting Spotlight and also the Memorabilia Minute. We'll bring you guests. And then also when I get about halfway through the show or towards the end, I will go to the Maize and Blue Review website, and I will look on the boards, and I will check to see what's hot and what Michigan fans are saying there. So you can get your feedback in via the message boards there on Rivals, which we are kicking off here, first day of coverage. I wish it was happening under different circumstances. That is, I wish we were sitting here talking about on launch day, Michigan being 8-0 and waiting for the college football playoff rankings to come out, and dreaming of all the things that you would dream of, dreaming of things that it didn't happen to me. I try to take each week and put it in context and each game, and sometimes that's easier said than done. This week is one of those things, which we'll get to all of that. But when I got to what was it? It was the bye week after Nebraska. Michigan had the thrilling game there at Lincoln, and then all right, it was the bye week, and I remember seeing a post of somebody saying, I hate bye weeks, and I was like, what, I'm really enjoying this bye week. Michigan was undefeated, and I had feelings about Michigan football that I hadn't had in a while, and a lot of it was the stuff that I'm feeling right now, all the coaching and disaster and impending doom, the sky is falling, and things that you have to deal with over the years after a Michigan loss or a Michigan season or a Michigan bowl game or a Michigan Ohio State game. Those all came flooding back this weekend. But during the bye week, it was so much fun. It wasn't a relief. It was just great feeling, great vibe. All of those kind of things. You just sit back and say, you know what? It's fun talking about the coaching staff, head coach, young staff. It was great. Take either side of the ball, all three position group, whatever you wanted to do, all three phases of the game. Everybody was playing, if not well. You could, Michigan was undefeated. Things were looking good, and they had a Northwestern team in front of them. But then we knew the second half of the season, or you want to call them tougher games, landmines, whatever else, and one of them was going to be up in East Lansing from what we had seen from Michigan State. We didn't know how good Michigan State was going to be. And you know what? They got a great running back. There's no doubting of that right now. There's no going around Kenneth Walker III and what he was able to do. So the first thing that I'll tackle is I'll answer the question why I thought Michigan lost the game. And it's KW5, Kenneth Walker, the third, the fourth, the fifth touchdown. I mean, you can have a guy make some plays and get some yards after contact and have a 27-yard touchdown run. But when it starts to get, here's a 60 and then too many broken tackles and then too many 4th and 1s, then the touchdowns and the 2-point conversions, clearly it was too much to take. And those big plays, and the big plays in this one, and it all started towards the end of the first quarter. Michigan State before they got into the second quarter, they went with some tempo and they got Michigan running off the field. And I was like, okay, that's going to happen sometimes, but that was foreshadowing of what was going to happen and going to be a problem for Michigan all game long. If they weren't getting penalized for having people running off the field, they were running around not in position while, State had scouted them. And that was something that they were going to spring on them, and it worked very effectively. Obviously, State got that touchdown run the first play of the second quarter. And then when they got another touchdown there in the second quarter, remember when they had the 4th and 1, they had a 40-yard floater over the middle, and then they're down to like the 5-yard line. Michigan, they had players running all and Walker went around and scored. They didn't call that one for too many men on the field for Michigan there, but they only had 8 guys, and Walker went around, and of course they didn't have to accept that penalty. So it was happening all the way through, and you credit the opponent, and then you wonder if Michigan at half, how much they did talk about that. And I know Jim Harbaugh did speak just moments ago, and we've had some of that audio. I also see that some of the writers were live tweeting during the news conference. Angelique Shingelis from the Detroit News, she asked about the second fumble. Here's one. Also, she asked about Michigan being in position, and I'll see if I can find that. I thought I had it right in front of me here, but I don't. Asked Harbaugh about the fumble. We'll get to that one. And all right, it's coming in from somewhere else, maybe. But that was an issue. Yards after contact, big plays, and then Michigan really, they were in fabulous position. Thinking about being up 16 points in the third quarter, and all the plays that Michigan State had to make, get the touchdowns and the 2-point conversions to put themselves in position to tie that game and then ultimately take the lead. Michigan's defense, one of the things for me, and that's going to happen. You're going to have an opponent that sits on some kind of tendency and springs it on you, and you're not quick to be able to make the adjustment. It was a factor for sure. How big? It was a huge factor to me. Talking about the tempo. But then it got to just repeated play after repeated big play by Michigan State that they had to just keep making. And then they also were making plays that were getting reviewed a lot. And then they just kept getting the break there. And you know what? If it wasn't for the, was it the second review? Because the first one was the Kenneth Walker bobble. The second one was the targeting on Haskins. The third one was the Ajabo Hutchinson, the Ajabo strip and the Hutchinson touchdown. If that one is called to the standard that it's supposed to be called, like the Kenneth Walker touchdown, where it looked like you could make a case that, maybe it was just starting to move before he hit the plane of the goal, you could make that case. You know what? It wasn't irrefutable video evidence. And you know what? When the targeting call on Haskins, however you believe about guys getting thrown out or what, Haskins he wasn't a defenseless player at that point. He was still moving forward a little bit, and the player did come in and got him as he was going down with his shoulder. And it was to the helmet neck area, but he wasn't a defenseless player at that point. I thought that was a good call and a good review. But also on the strip and the touchdown, it was the call on the field. It was too close. You can't tell me for sure that he had that ball. In fact, it looked like the ball started to move before that shin went down. And to add to the matters there, because it is tough if you're a Michigan fan to try to be objective, and we all see things a little bit differently. We know that. But the thing to me is that you got the guys on the call, and here's the quote from Joel Klatt: "Not seeing the look of clear and obvious." And then they bring in Mike Pereira, who says this one that is so close. What did they rule on the field? Based on the fact that they ruled fumble on the field, Joel, I don't think they can change this. Well, they did change it. So when you have one that's taken from you right there, and Michigan's going to go up and have 27 points at the half, and then the ensuing video replays, and I think like the one that was picked up off the field and went, I thought that was the correct call. And the other ones, I think that went Michigan State's way on the video review, went the right way too, but they clearly got that one wrong, which was a huge play. It was a 7-point play. 6 for sure. 7. Let's make it 7, when you're kicking right there from in Moody's automatic on extra point. So, that part with the calls is the video review. I mean, that's what we've seen it in all sports. Isn't the first time, and you have to overcome that. And then late in the game on the second from last drive that Michigan has on offense, when Cornelius Johnson, the defender, has his arm draped around him, that should have been a defensive pass interference. I mean, clearly. Those are the 2 calls, that I'm going to go to. But yeah, have we seen missed calls and a defensive pass interference late in a game? The ref wants to keep his flag in his pocket, that kind of thing. We've seen it, and we've seen botched reviews. But all of the other reviews, I think there were 7 reviews, and they all went Michigan State's way. I mean, come on. So to make it clear and concise, when we tell people why did you think Michigan lost the game, the first thing that I say is Kenneth Walker. Michigan had him hemmed in a few times, and it was yards after contact. And yeah, it's the obvious thing. The guy scored 5 touchdowns. And when you say, well, it was the offense, having to settle for field goals, I've seen a little bit of that. So, the offense has their share. Sure. Blake Corum on Michigan's second offensive possession of the game. They're up already 7-0, but, Corum on that third down has that ball, hit him right in the 2. He probably would have gone in for a touchdown there. Could have. It looked like it. You can certainly make the case. 14-0. That's a big play. Michigan flinched to their tight end on another 4th down run before when they had the fake. They had a hard time with the execution of the punt. There's another one. Andrew Anthony, a star is born in this game from what he did with that the first touchdown, second touchdown, and the catches that he was making during this game. We saw it right in front of our eyes. It was a great story. The kid from East Lansing. But on Michigan's other drive there, you go down. Let's see which one it was, just so we can get it exact. It was Michigan's third offensive possession. That was after Dax Hill tipped it. Mike Morris gets the interception. Michigan goes down. They give it to Cornelius Johnson on a reverse. He's got it down to the 5 for a first down, and they call Andrew Anthony for a hold. That was a very nitpicky hold if you go back by anybody's standard. And did he turn him? Did he have his hands? I didn't even see any of that. It looked more, trying to be objective, it looked more to me like that was defensive holding than holding on number 1 for the Wolverines. So I know. So there's 3 calls, and I know there's other ones. People taking pictures, and it looked a lot like Morris was being held. And I saw that live when I was watching the game. I saw a few of those. You do have to overcome those things. But Michigan having their opportunities and being up 16 points and touchdowns and 2-point conversions, 4th downs that are being thrown over their head or down to the goal line, too many of those. And then if you really want to argue, well, was it more offense or was it more defense? You get to a point where there's over 5 minutes to go in the game, and then there's just a little bit over 4, and Michigan's on their own 32. This is after, State had taken the lead, but there's still, I think it was 4:16 to go. Michigan decides to go for it with 4:16 to go on their own 32-yard line with 3 timeouts. So almost in any other situation that you're sitting there, you'd say, hey, kick the ball, play defense. You don't even have to stop them necessarily, 3 straight times. They could get a first down, and then you could still, get the ball back. You have 3 timeouts. You're on your own 32-yard line. But Jim Harbaugh and the staff had seen enough of Kenneth Walker where they didn't think they could stop him. They didn't think that they could get Michigan State with over 4 minutes to go and 3 timeouts stopped before the 50 to get the ball back to try to make one more push downfield. Now they got the first down that ends up not being the, talked about as much, but you go back, you're like, whoa, look at this. it was telling to me. You know, the defense, whether you want to, they were just gassed. They'd given up the long touch on another long touchdown to Kenneth Walker on the previous one, and Harbaugh said that's enough. So yeah, the offense had to settle for some field goals, but the defense at the end was so worn out that they didn't want him back out on the field. So I would say in the end, it was defense. Here's some feedback coming in right off the bat. Let's put it up here. Here's Hail TVV. Welcome to Rivals. We also be covering basketball comes basketball season. Well, basketball season starts what? Friday? Isn't there was it a scrimmage or a game, or it just doesn't count towards the standings at Wayne State? I don't know if that game's going to be on TV. The answer is 100% yes. Now look, I grew up in the 70s watching Michigan football. Bo Schembechler. I didn't go to Michigan, but I loved watching Michigan football, and it's always been number one to me. Football, Michigan football. I love covering it. When I got out of a college, I went to work at a radio station in Ann Arbor and got a chance to cover Michigan. It was a dream come true. And talking about Michigan football is still, I like watching Michigan play football. The second best thing is talking about Michigan in games that they played. But, basketball is my favorite sport to play. And Tim McCormick and the gang in the early 80s, when they had an NIT run, that was something to me that I took notice of, and they ended up being my favorite basketball team. Michigan football, Michigan basketball, later Michigan hockey, and then much later Michigan baseball. I love all four of those sports, and I love college and pro, but I love Michigan football, basketball, hockey, and baseball. So I'm in a really good spot. Actually like a lot of the Olympic sports as well. Softball is great. Go on and on. Gymnastics, field hockey. I mean, it's great. It's great. You like competition. I'm right down the road here in the Peach Mountains of Peach Mountain. It's located in Dexter, Michigan. It's a short trip down to see some competition and see the maize and blue. So yeah, a long answer to one simple question is I can't wait to talk basketball. And last year, and a lot of it had to do with the pandemic and the situation, I was able to go back to Ann Arbor, where I started after being in Detroit for 14 years, and help out at the radio station that I started at for a year. And it happened during, of course, the football season, which was a disaster, but basketball season was anything but. And it was glorious. Last year's basketball season was one of the great seasons and most memorable seasons ever. I don't say that lightly. And I know they didn't go to the Final Four championship game, but winning the Big Ten, the team coming together, fabulous, doing what they did. They kept me so entertained. I love that team. And, I can't get enough of talking about them. That's the way I felt about Michigan football during the bye week. The feelings, like it felt like talking about Michigan basketball, because Michigan basketball, so you could say anything. You could just pull a player out of a hat. Oh, Franz Wagner, here's 10 minutes. I'll talk about him. Juwan Howard, and talk about Howard Isley. I mean, you could go anywhere, and football was getting that way. And that's the part where when I get to so I answer the question why Michigan lost. Easy answer, Kenneth Walker III. Tempo. And I would also put the turnover from McCarthy in there as well. A fourth down plays, big plays. That's as quick as I can do it. But is the season over for Michigan? And the answer to that here on November 1st is yes, it feels like it. It feels like the season's over. All those good feelings, and I know it's not. They've got 4 games to play, and a lot of what happens in these 4 games is going to determine just, how we're going to end up feeling about the team. Bowl game, Ohio State game. They've got Indiana, a night game this week. you know how it goes. If you're like me, everything seems to be lost right now. You're in a bad place. That's how it goes. And the only remedy to crawl out of this dark spot is for victories on the field, and they don't play till Saturday, so it's going to be a long week. And I know the sun's going to rise, and I know Michigan has a chance where they can get back and play for something. They're not even out of the Big Ten East race. But it just feels like it, because heading into this season, when I looked at the schedule and I played the game of, win this one, lose that one, what's the most important game? When it came to Michigan State, I told everybody that was listening to me that it was a must-win game. I didn't see any way around it. You can't fall under 500 if you're Jim Harbaugh to Michigan State. You can't go 0-2 against Mel Tucker, who just showed up there in East Lansing, and yet they did. And that's exactly the situation that we're sitting in. So I don't know. I don't see any light at the tunnel. But again, it's the Monday after a devastating loss. Let's just be honest about it. I mean, I don't have to sit here and I know a lot of people like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Let's get back out there and start cheering for these guys. Like, all right, maybe Saturday. Maybe Saturday I'll be able to do that. I'm not doing that today. I don't feel like, I don't have any boots on. I don't feel like doing anything right now except, crying and whining. So is the season over? Yeah, it feels like it. They had 4 games. They got a bowl game. But the problem is that when you go 7-0, you stop and you do start thinking about the what ifs. And you just want it to continue so much. And you're having such a good time, and you haven't had that kind of good time. I hadn't enjoyed Michigan football last year. The opener against Minnesota was great. I was like, man, it's worth the wait. It was awesome. Everybody, but then after that, everything was a disaster. And I didn't have great prospects for this year, but slowly, week by week, they built it back up where you start thinking, wow, look at these guys. And that's one of the worst parts about it. Like I just talked about the Michigan defense. Jim Harbaugh conceded that his defense couldn't stop Michigan State. He had to go for it on his own 32 with over 4 minutes to go and 3 timeouts. That's how he felt about his defense in that game. I like the defense. I like the players. Hutchinson's a great player. Ajabo hasn't come out of nowhere, but he looks like a star. I like the 2 defensive tackles. Dax Hill, I thought the corners played pretty well in this game. But giving up plays, the big plays or the 2-point conversions, not being, and I liked Mike McDonald up to this point. But when it came down to it in a big game, the 33-year-old didn't have the answers and got out coached. And that goes to his head coach, and that goes to the defensive coordinator and anybody else. That's the staff. So that gets us to the other question. How much of this is on Jim Harbaugh? Well, everything comes back to the head coach. Jim Harbaugh was the one inserting the quarterbacks and playing revolver with the QB. We always knew that was dangerous. And we know that McCarthy could hit the transfer portal, and, that McNamara with the free year and him being in effect a redshirt freshman, he could have 3 more seasons after this. So playing both of them, you understand it. But you also understand that, do you want to win the game that you're in? Or do you want to worry about, pacifying some players or you have your plan? And I don't know what happened after the second fumble. Cade was working through something. Cade was in the tent. Cade was this. Cade was that. JJ was this. Same thing. But you know what? There's reasons that it's never worked almost in the history of college football. Doing like the old ball coach, bringing a player in, bringing a quarterback in, this snap, sending him out, sending the other guy in. It just, it's the one position you need. You need rhythm. You need to have the rest of the team believe in you. And you know what? The thing that stands out the most to me on the whole thing with the QB and whatever it ended up coming down to, if, they had to put McCarthy in after his fumble because of McNamara was dealing with something. He did get that blitz that came off the corner, got his bell rung, hung in there. And there was another series after that. The thing is, when you get a guy at the quarterback position, McNamara was having a fantastic game. Not every throw was perfect. Yeah, they're really going, throwing behind Blake Corum. Even when they got down there and had to settle for the field goal at the end of the first half, he overshot Anthony. He didn't let Kojo get a play on the ball in the corner of the end zone. So not every pass was perfect, but he had some crossing routes. And when they went up 16, when he threw that one to Sanders still, and he had the pose, the Paul Bunyan pose, it was a money ball. He was clicking. He was cooking. And that's where it comes back to the coach. You say, you know what? You have to decide when you got a guy that's going like that. It's like in Hoosiers. Jimmy Chitwood needed to shoot the last shot because he'll make it, coach. Cade should have been in there, especially after that fumble, maybe even before that fumble. So, yeah, that's going to fall back onto the head coach. And what else falls on the head coach? The tempo issue. Oh, Mike McDonald, Michigan was exposed to that. They couldn't, the guys were standing up. They were running all around. The head coach has got to coordinate all that. I know he gives a lot of responsibility to his coordinators. Didn't work well for him. So the tempo, the quarterback shuffle, and ultimately we're sitting here. You can say, well, look at how many yards the offense put up, and they got screwed on a couple of calls. Put that on Harbaugh. Well, it's cumulative as well. Harbaugh's now 3-4 against Michigan State. And yeah, you know what? The one came down with the snap at the very end of the game. Another one, was a rain-soaked, game where he had to, put in his third or fourth string quarterback. And then there's this one. And then there's last year that they weren't prepared for when they were a 20-point favorite. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it has a little bit of the effect in a rivalry game and in a big game where you say, hey, and individually, yeah, just this game, tempo, and the quarterback shuffle. But you know what? You had Mark D'Antonio put in the rearview mirror. Mel Tucker comes in, hits the portal, got transfers left and right, and you got to win the game. It becomes a bottom line situation. But yeah. And like Jim Harbaugh understand this is, I know a lot of Michigan fans like, take it easy on Jim Harbaugh. Are you a Michigan guy or not? Like, it's not doing any good. Everybody else is ripping him. Well, you don't have to sit and rip him every day. You don't have to rip him every week. But if there's the question that needs to be answered, does Jim Harbaugh deserve a little criticism for his coaching against Michigan State in this game and for the last 2 years and for his time here? The answer is yes. And he knows that. So it's not piling on. It's just answering a question. And yes, outside of Ann Arbor, and certainly if you're not a Michigan fan, it gets sickening, and it's the worst. It is one of the terrible parts about being a fan right now is that people will attack Jim Harbaugh, and then it becomes one of these where you feel like, I don't want to hear any of this. Stop it. And now even our local guys and even our guys that are supposed to be like the Uber fans are doing it too. Deal with it. Deal with that. You know what? Yeah, he deserves criticism here, and you don't have to give it to him, wear him out every day on it, but he knows it, and he wears it. You have to wear it. You got to put on those big boy khakis and take it. And, it happens. People, when you have a post game, like he had up in East Lansing, I'm getting texts. Oh, Jim looked like he was like, come on. But he's got to take some criticism. All right, let's get some. Let's get some audio in here, and the first, and we'll have the Michigan recruiting spotlight coming up. I'll also have the memorabilia minute that I'm going to want to get to. Here's somebody. I said a star was born. Andrell Anthony had the 93-yard lightning bolt. And then, the kids from Eastland, it's the greatest story ever. But then he's coming back. He's the second series. Yeah, here he is catching another ball. Here he is with another touchdown. He almost had 3. What a spectacular game from Andrell Anthony. Here's what he had to say just moments ago in Ann Arbor. This is courtesy of Angelique Shingelis and the Detroit News Twitter feed. Here's Anthony.
Well, first to say, I mean, it's kind of like, it was exciting, obviously, stuff like that, but I mean, like, being able to be put in a position by, like, the coaches, stuff like that, players even believe in me, giving the opportunity, stuff like that, I mean, it meant, like, the world to me, just, like, the coaches, like, yeah, I'm a true freshman and stuff like that, and they really, like, believe in me, that meant a lot to me. As far as really just like my teammates, stuff like that, like just the trust, like the bond we had, it just like it means like the world to me.
All right, a star is born. That was a great showing by the kid. It would have been great. Of course, it'd be a lot different. We're sitting here talking about a win. We do know that, but that's different. Let's see here. Jim Harbaugh spoke moments ago in his Monday news conference as well. And our own Josh Henschke, the publisher of TMBR, was on site, and he has sent me this. Here's Jim Harbaugh taking to the podium moments ago down in Ann Arbor. Dave Abloff throwing it to him. Let's go. Larry Lage.
On the left,
Jim, defensively, how do you clean up some of those substitution issues where you guys are having trouble getting guys on the field?
Yeah, something we got to work on, we got to fix, especially when they're not substituting and going fast. It's not the time for us to substitute.
on the right here, Ryan.
Jim, what's the status of Donovan Edwards?
He's working through something right now.
Left, Isaiah.
I know you haven't had practices of yet, but how have you seen your guys kind of act in the aftermath of this, and how do you keep it from one loss turning into two?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the team for a long time now. The way they respond, and whether it's a setback or chatter, so I know how they're going to respond. Been around, several of them. Come back today for meetings, but very confident that the team will respond like they did, which is come back with more resolve, more determined to prepare and get ready for our next ball game.
All right, a little bit from Jim Harbaugh there. Since I just sat here, and if you've been listening, and I thought that the biggest issue, one of the big issues, of course, Kenneth Walker and yards after contact, but it played into the Michigan defense not being prepared for the personnel switches out, and they got caught more than once, flagged once, another one when the touchdown was going in, and then they were out of position. That's a legitimate question for sure. Something we got to work on. I'd like a little bit more. And so if I was at that news conference, I would have that in my back pocket and say, hey, Jim, were you guys not ready? Were they doing something a little bit more with the tempo and the hurry up? I don't know, it might be a little bit overboard saying, hey, did you guys practice at all for up tempo? Did you just come in? So I don't know, but I like the response there, the resolve. He said that on Monday. Like I said, and I think Michigan fans are going to be like this. It's a dark day today. There's no getting right back up on the horse as a fan and being all excited about the night game against Indiana. That's not going to happen. That might not even happen on Saturday. If you want to tell me that you're not going to feel good unless Michigan goes out and plays a heck of a game against Indiana and then goes to Happy Valley and then, takes it to Penn State and gets 2 games under the belt where you feel like, all right, they can go to Maryland and win that one, and then they might have something for Ohio State. You might be coming around by then. But not today. But Harbaugh has to come around, and so do the players. I mean, that's why they get paid the big bucks. Let's see if I've got more. I have to toggle a little bit. Let's just see. I lost my spot. Maybe I did. Yes, I did. Can I move it? All right, well, that's what we had from Jim Harbaugh. I'll let that run a little bit, And let's see if I can get back to the spot in about 5 minutes. All right, 2 features to get to. One is the memorabilia minute, and the other is the Michigan recruiting spotlight. And for the memorabilia minute, I've got so many things here memorabilia wise in the Peach Mountain Studios. I thought, well, why not talk about them for 1 minute? It could be of some interest to the folks out there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see over my shoulder here a case. And up top here, that is a Heisman Trophy. And the 3 players, you can see that they are wearing maize and blue. You've got Tom Harmon, Desmond Howard, and Charles Woodson, which Charles Woodson, it was a great moment with Woodson being on the field before the game waving that flag on Fox. That was really cool. But this was given to me shortly after the 97 season, and the workmanship is fantastic. It is held up. Like if I polished this thing up and had it, something you'd say, wow, this thing looks like it's brand new. Whoever put this together and gave this to me, thank you. It's a great piece of memorabilia. It's been in multiple on-air studios, and I wouldn't sell it for $1 million. I'd sell it for $1 million. I wouldn't sell it for, I don't know, I wouldn't sell it for $500. You're going to have to get up into the thousands before I would think about moving on for that one. Once you get to about 1,000, I think I could start building my own maybe and pocket half the cash or maybe 90% of it. So that's the memorabilia minute. I went with the big piece right off the bat. The Heisman Trophy honoring Michigan's winners with the figurines, the write-ups, the maize velvet, or the blue velvet in the background, and the little write-ups that have maize around them, it all enclosed in the case. That 8x11, what do we got about 12 by 15 case? That's the memorabilia minute. Now, for the Michigan recruiting spotlight, let's see where Harbaugh's at here. If we had this thing running, it doesn't look like it's still running. Let's see. No, it's still running. All right. The recruiting spotlight has Michigan ranked by rivals as 17. They've got 17 commitments, and they're ranked 18th overall as we sit right now. 2 weeks ago, they had 18 commitments, and they were ranked 17th, and then they lost Tayshaun Trent, the 4-star wide receiver, and now they're ranked 18th with 17 commitments, and they're down to 3 4-stars, and they just have the 1 5-star. But a lot of people, when it goes to this game, want to say, well, how's this going to affect recruiting? And it affects it. Like, it's not good. It's not good. I don't think if somebody was thinking, I like Michigan State, I like Michigan, they watch this game and like, oh, I'm sold on Michigan now. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. The winner, gets, there's a lot of things that happen. The victor goes to spoils and all that. And a lot of that, when it comes to recruiting, you pick up the phone and you win the game. Hey, you want to join us or what? So it helps. I think the one thing that, and we'll see how it ends up playing out, if Mel Tucker going to LSU, like if Michigan State would have lost that game on Saturday and Michigan State would have, lost to Purdue and Ohio State, if they would have lost 3 games down in Baton Rouge today, people weren't going to be sitting around like, man, I can't wait to get Mel Tucker. He just got his teeth kicked in and gave up 500 yards of offense to Michigan. Let's go get Tuck. He's coming. No, I don't think that would have been the talk. But do I think today in Baton Rouge, Mel Tucker went out and beat his rival? He's 2-0 against Michigan. The last time the Tigers, went up and took a coach from East Lansing, his name was Nick Saban. Now we got a guy undefeated sitting there knocking on the door of the college football playoff. What I'm saying here is, how it affects Mel Tucker. While you take the win if you're Michigan State, and you think about that, this could affect recruiting if he ends up bolting. I think the other part, and a lot of people have talked about this aspect, is the recruiting aspect of the portal and just how the portal was taken advantage of by Mel Tucker. There's going to be a lot of coaches examining it. There's been a lot of Florida State also hit the transfer portal pretty hard, and look at them. So it's not just absolutely, just a magic elixir you go to the portal and then you just bring in, the 30 different guys or however they turned over on the roster, and it's magic. You got to know who you're picking and the personnel and the coach and putting it all together. It's pretty clear that Tucker is able to put together a team pretty quick. Last year, he didn't even know the guys' names because of COVID and practice restrictions, and he came out after looking like a joke against Rutgers and beat Michigan. Now we hear, look at him, 8-0. But I think the thing to remember about the portal, a lot of Michigan fans are like, well, we need to hit the portal. We need to change admissions. I don't think that's happening. You talk with, now, if you're just I'm just a Michigan fan. Like, I didn't go to Michigan, but I talked to people that went to Michigan. And when you ask people that went to Michigan about the admissions and about what this does, it gets back to where you might have to be careful. Michigan grads, they really like that. What is it? The U.S. News and World Report, when they rank the public colleges, and Michigan's routinely in the top 5, USC, UCLA, Michigan, right up there. If you start relaxing some of the issues when it comes down to admissions early, or whatever it comes down to, and maybe a lot of Michigan people don't like to talk about Xavier Worthy, who is, they blame the outgoing recruiting coordinator, Dudek, I think his name was, who ended up going to Mississippi State, and they just lay it at his feet. And and maybe it is just all on him, but there's also, was there something admissions wise that, Michigan just wasn't ready to rubber stamp or something? And my point here is that this could affect, and I don't know how much, would you be willing, if you went to Michigan, to say, well, you relaxed that admission standards, you might fall, out of the top 10 of that report that people love. You talk to Michigan alums, and they're always talking about, hey, we're the number 1 or number 2, or we're top 5 when it comes down to that report. They love it. And that is a devalue your your diploma or what. You got to ask Michigan alums that way. They have to decide, a president in working with the athletic director, and then in this case the football coaches, maybe the other, it's not just football. So I don't know. That's a thorny issue, but I saw a lot of people today on Rivals talking about it. And speaking of Rivals, and starting there today, the TMBR, the Maize and Blue Review. And if you're someone who likes Michigan talk and likes to engage in Michigan fans in a community every day, well, get aboard here at the outset on Rivals and TMBR. And I'm going to go to the message board right here. And I posted something on here. I got no replies. Maybe when I click on, somebody will have replied. I say, if you have any topics for me to discuss, then reply here and I'll check it during the show. Why did Michigan come up short? How much of this is on Harbaugh? Is the season over? How will this affect the recruiting and the Michigan recruiting spotlight, along with the memorabilia minute? I've hit all of those, but in the future, I will go and I will collect the questions here. It's the first day. I was hoping for one, but I got it in the response right here. So I like that, talking about basketball. So let's see what people are talking about here. Jim Harbaugh, MSU, the transfer portal, the defense adjusting, basketball scrimmage, basketball coverage. Those are the things that are being discussed there on the board. And if you've ever thought about getting in there, now's a great time. You get a free trial for Rivals. You go to Michigan.Rivals, promo code GOBLUE30. You get 30 free days. And check it out. Everything that's going on up to the second in football recruiting. You go to those the community with the message boards, and people are swapping paint every minute about what's going on up to the second with Michigan. Football, basketball, hockey, and the rest. I'm excited to be there. So you go to Michigan.Rivals and that promo code one more time. Go Blue 30. Just remember Dax Hill. Dax Hill 30. Yeah, yes. Go Blue Dax Hill, but Go Blue 30. That's the promo code. All right. I think that's everything here as we go through it. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock to talk about what has happened over the last 24 hours. And thanks for listening. And I will talk at you tomorrow. See ya.